there on your screen, but Tempo Storm, XRB to the moon, they're in the lower portion of the bracket. That is an elimination match. That's the first one we're going to see today. And then Skill Cap Black and 85%, they still have their chance to lose. Now, Zico, are there any teams in particular in the top 8 that you are surprised haven't made it all of the way here today to the top 4?
I think that the main team that didn't make it even to the top 8 would be...
And versatility on multiple classes, they're going to do really well. This is an interesting pick. Outlaw Mistweaver Monk from Minpoike. So he's going to be stretching his versatility. Way of the Crane is normally pretty good against these Warlock.coms, so we're going to have to see how it plays out.
This could be the answer that they tailored for the composition that XRB to the moon has brought their bread and butter comp. Let's get this one started.
And Nixie's going to be opening up onto Zipai. No CC out on the Looney yet, but you can tell Minpoike wants to get aggressive. There's the Incapacitate into the leg sweep. So Minpoike onto that Mistweaver Monk. He actually misses the leg sweep there. Unfortunately, trinkets out of the fear, misses the leg sweep. So not going to be the best start for Tempo Storm, but Minpoike also taking quite a bit of damage here in the opener. He's going to have to port behind the pillar.
Yeah, and XRB to the moon are managing Minpoike quite well. They're trying to bait his way of the Crane with no stun, but Minpoike isn't falling for the bait, but he is falling behind. There's the blind. They commit. They go for the kill onto Zipai. Now a sap out with an Incapacitate onto the Warlock to deny any peels. Zipai trades out his Astral Shift to reduce the pressure, but way of the Crane is a ton of damage. And this strategy decision that I could only imagine was Alex's idea to bring Way of the Crane against this dot comp is actually working out quite effectively. Looney caught into a stun. Zipai is still low. Alec is ripping at him, trying to fake cast the interrupts with his Arcane Missile stop casts. Now we can see a fear though on Minpoike as they set up on Alec with the axe toss. Will they be able to combo it into more burst? Looks like Life Cocoon is going to be traded out by Minpoike. He doesn't want to fall behind. The next time Way of the Crane comes up, which is about 10 seconds from now, that's when Zipai is going to have to keep a close eye. Thalkil's consumption. Walrus is trying to fake cast. He fake casts the Cloak of Shadows. He's trying to go for it now right at the end, I believe. Alec gets bursted instead. He's down to half. Looney now getting swapped to. The damage from Tempo Storm is decent. If they can maintain their mana into a late game, this comp might be a decent pick.
Yeah, Minpoike putting big bursts out onto Looney. So the main strategy of Tempo Storm, it seems, Minpoike has the Incapacitate. Nixie, of course, he has the Between the Eye Stun. Those two abilities going to be super effective at crowd controlling Looney. When the Between the Eye Stun isn't available, Minpoike has his own Incapacitate leg sweep. They also seem to be making those swaps on the Looney. If they catch him in caster form with the Incapacitate, they can put out big burst onto him, knocking off that Vim, reducing his overall healing. So very, very important. Alec now taking a bit of damage. Nice lockout over on the Looney. Walrus getting lower, having to line of sight a little bit. And if we look at mana, Minpoike is doing very well in this situation.
Yeah, Minpoike is just staying at the pillar with Alec, waiting for Way of the Crane so that he can charge out and dish out damage and heal his whole team with it as well. Incapacitate, potential leg sweep here. They might make a swap with it. Nixie's moving over. Minpoike and Nixie on Looney. Alec is going to try and find his way over now. Arcane Missiles gets stunned again. Barkskin, will it be enough? It seems like it will be as Looney's trying to scrape away with the Frenzy Regens. He's going to survive a swap, so they immediately switch targets back to Walrix, trying to shut down the damage, but Zipai's ripping in. Nixie's dipping low. He's going to pop his Adrenaline Rush, though, trying to maybe bait an Iron Bark. He gets feared away on it. I really love the peels from Walrix. Anytime a cooldown is popped, Walrix is immediately looking to crowd control it.
Yeah, Walrix playing phenomenally in this matchup so far, breaking up those CC chains as well on him. Minpoike anytime he goes for that Incapacitate. Nixie lands the full blind on the Looney. Zipai trying to line of sight, but Nixie's able to connect. Here comes the Arcane Missiles, but nice counterspell from Walrix. That's going to be shutting down that Arcane power. Phenomenally done, slowing down Tempo Storm's damage by quite a bit. Looney now into the sap, but not too much damage following. Zipai finally taking a little bit of burst. Nice knock, though. Knocks Minpoike and Nixie away. Still trying to kite around. Looney finally out of that crowd control. Zipai trying to respond with damage of his own, casting out that Stormkeeper. Huge AoE is going to be coming out from him as the Legion Commander gets dropped by Walrix as well.
Yeah, but Way of the Crane was well timed by Minpoike. He immunes all the Fell Lord stuns, and he can just heal his team back up, and now immediately retreating away. We see Alec getting set up on that Axe Toss. Trades out the Ice Block at a very high health. He didn't want to mess with that Thalkil's consumption. It can be a deadly one when Walrix is channeling it, so I respect the decision to play it cautious there from Alec, but now with that Ice Block down, he's going to have to be careful moving into the game later. Mana is now starting to be in favor of Looney if he can maintain that advantage. It does seem like we're going into a deeper dampening game here. Alec is low, Minpoike is low. They're still waiting for Way of the Crane, and now it seems like Minpoike is going to move out. We can see Mark of Alanith casted onto Walrix. They're going to switch targets to him. They're baiting an Iron Bark and then maybe swapping back to Zipai. They might be able to find a kill with that counterspell, denying the Unending Resolve. Looney now caught into a leg sweep. Seems like Walrix is all A-okay, though. Zipai just tossed out a couple healing surges, and he's maintaining Walrix for now. No longer is Looney CC'd, so he should be able to start picking him back up. They're looking for counter pressure. Nixie's dipping low. This could be a Cloak of Shadows. He's going to stun Zipai, try and slow the pressure. Looney's moving forward, lands another Cyclone onto Minpoike. Alex retreated back to Minpoike, and Alex Alec and Minpoike are doing a hit-and-run strategy. Anytime Way of the Crane is not available, Alec hides behind the pillar. Every time it's up, they charge forward. They're looking for a swap. Looney gets caught in cat form. He chooses not to trinket. He's trying to play it greedy with just the bark skin. Manages to make it out alive, once again with the off-healing from Zeepai.
Yeah, Minpoike, when he's going for those CC chains, he needs to make sure he's not overstaying his welcome when he goes for the incapacitate and the leg sweep. He needs to get away from Looney. Looney caught him in a bash into a cyclone. He just wants to avoid those crowd control at all costs, but these constant swaps over to Looney are keeping him guessing. Who does he keep hots on? Does he have to stay in bear form? Makes it very difficult for him to make these decisions. Now Zeepai is going to be taking a little bit of damage as Minpoike and Nixie both connect. The leg sweep over on Looney. Alec is locked out though. Walrix is just doing a phenomenal job this game, locking out Alex at key times so he can't get off that arcane mage damage.
Nixie is using Tricks of the Trade on Alec, which boosts his damage, but I actually wonder if he should use it on Minpoike's Way of the Crane, because every time Alec gets counterspelled or spell locked by Walrix, and he's saving it every time for that moment. So if Alec can't get any damage out, I think a Tricks of the Trade would be more beneficial on Minpoike. Way of the Crane Monk does a ton of damage. If you boost that another 15%, I think that might be better. It seems like Nixie is just getting punished though in the middle of the map. Down on 10%. He needs to get away, but he can't. Walrix and Zeepai, relentless pressure throughout.
Cloak for a little bit more. We're gonna go and set up on him. Zeepai gets a beautiful Ice Fury right there, and then Zeepai gets the Earth Shock as well, spamming out these Frost Shocks. Minpoike gets feared there by Warrix on that Enveloping Mist. Beautiful job, and that's gonna be it for Nixie.
You know, usually now you start to predict what we actually see to come out in the draft, but there's our answer, so we don't have to do that. The thing is, though, is I really want to talk about the fact when we were in Cup number 1, I feel like a lot of our focus was just on where did these players lie for the season? Where did they fall after the giant shakeup that went down the EU, and inevitably there was one in the NA as well. There were crazy roster swaps. When we look at Tempo Storm in particular, Minpoike was obviously a part of that old, I guess you could call them Northern Gaming Blue dynasty that had just been around for a long time, which was Waz, Raikou, Minpoike, and then of course Zuniaki. Zuniaki and Minpoike end up on different teams. The duo of that rogue mage stays together. Now Minpoike is the new healer for the reigning BlizzCon champions. And when you looked at that Northern Gaming Blue lineup as 4 players, you're like, oh yeah, this is a team that can really do some damage. This is a team that could go to BlizzCon and place very high. This is a team that could go to BlizzCon and maybe win. And the question is now that all these guys are separated, did they find the right homes? They obviously have the skill to compete at the top level, but is this new Tempo Storm lineup one of the forces to be reckoned with? They have to prove it here today. Okay, so they have to go for a deep run, and if they do not, they will not be able to qualify for the first LAN.
Nixie has changed to Assassination. I mean, the basic strategy for Tempo Storm is Minpoike CCs Looney with Incapacitate, Alec uses Kleptomania to steal all the hots off their target, and then Nixie just does a ton of damage. And that's rinse, repeat over and over. And they're starting that up right now, and we can see Iron Bark used by Looney to deny Nixie's opening burst. Walrix is getting feared away on it as well. Now Minpoike getting feared on the Way of the Crane. So basically XRB to the moon are just trying to disarm Tempo Storm. Every time they see that in cap on Looney, Kleptomania, they're going to spam Fear, spam Healing Surge, and try to survive the duration. And as long as they can keep shutting that off, they can extend the game long enough to where either Minpoike makes a mistake or they can run him out of mana. In the meantime, there's another setup. Incapacitate into legs. Kleptomania. Walrix is dipping low. He's being greedy. He uses the unending resolve at 5%. Barely hangs on. There's the Fear spam. There's the Hex on the Minpoike. He's barely hanging on. The peels came just in the nick of time. But if Tempo Storm keep these setups going, this is looking dire for Walrix.
Yeah, and Looney just trinket out of a blind as well. So the next Incapacitate with the the pistol stun or the leg sweep is going to be a large CC chain. Walrix not going to have that unending resolve. Alec, if they're patient, Nixie and Alec, they'll have both Vendetta and Arcane Power. Tempo Storm has everything they need to walk away with a win right now. The only thing that's going to save Walrix is tremendous kiting or Looney getting a free Iron Bark or something like that. Now Nixie actually making a swap over on the Looney with a full kidney shot. Alex going for the Arcane Missiles, gets sheared into the Hex, so no follow-up damage from the Mage, but these little swaps on the Looney, I really feel like Tempo Storm, they know their win condition. They can take down Walrix.
Yeah, Looney Displacer Beast in to try and Vortex that Fell Lord. He was a second too late, but here's the setup. Kleptomania on Walrix. He's caught into the leg sweep. Looney seems to be dealing with it all right. We're gonna have to wait and see for the next incapacitate. It's basically a hit and run. Vendetta is now available, but Looney has paired his Iron Bark with that, so Looney is ready to use that as soon as Nixie does. I really just love the reaction time of Walrix. As soon as a stun goes out or an incapacitate goes out, he's immediately pressing that fear button as much as possible. Zeepai immediately goes to Healing Surge or Hex to deny the way of the Crane, and if they can keep their reaction time really high during those moments, they can make an impenetrable defense. We see Minpoike feared away. This is an offensive fear. They're looking to try and get a kill. Nixie sees it coming, but will he respond appropriately? Trinket, Cloak of Shadows should deny the kill. We see preemptive fears on Alec as Minpoike moves in, gets hexed immediately on the way of the Crane, and that's the awareness reaction time that Zeepai and Walrix need to win this.
Yeah, but big healing coming in from Minpoike. Now actually charges in. The kidney shot over onto Walrix. This is the setup I was talking about. All offensive cooldowns have been used by Temple Storm. Can they take Walrix down? Looney not in any more crowd control. If he can connect that Iron Bark, Walrix should be completely fine. But still, large damage coming in. Nice Shadow Step kick coming in from Nixie. He gets bashed up on it. Walrix getting lower and lower, though, trying to hold on just a little bit longer. Zeepai spamming out the heals and now trying to counter pressure with lots of damage of his own, but incapacitate now on the Looney. Arcane Missile still on the Walrix. Cheap Shot connects. Poison Bomb as well. Huge pressure out on the Walrix, and Looney really doesn't have anything to keep him alive. Manages to top him off with his artifact.
Yeah, but Nixie is going to be an opening target. The next time that Fell Lord's available, I can imagine they're going to go after him. And Poike getting feared away on the way of the Crane. He trinkets offensively. They're going for the blind play. Walrix has unending resolve. He has Portal. He's going to Portal away with the good cross crowd control situation. Now Looney displaces back to him. Nixie's looking like he wants to do something cheeky maybe. There's the Fell Lord. I don't really like that they went after Alec with it. Alec just trinketed and blinked out of it when Nixie had no trinket. I think it would have been more beneficial. They're trying to catch Nixie, but he was right on the edge. It's not going to hit him. Now he can just start training down Walrix. Looney caught into a polymorph, but with no stun, Walrix is just avoiding the damage. He's going to be fine. Alec is the one under pressure by Zeepai. Zeepai soloing him right now, down below half. And Poike is struggling whenever way of the Crane. He fake casts a wind shear, gets his Shayloons. He's going back to full. Nice Rising Sun kick, resetting his brew. He's going to be able to get an instant enveloping and then move in with way of the Crane. This next way of the Crane needs to get unending resolve if they want to set up for a win later. Minpoike's moving in. Is he going to go for the incapacity? No, he gets feared immediately. Nice reaction time from Walrix. We see a stun onto Nixie. The burst could follow it up. Nixie's dipping low. Cloak on 10%. While Minpoike's caught into a hex. Will he be able to stay alive? He kidney shots Walrix. Stormkeeper being channeled. Zeepai's ready. Nixie's trying to get behind the pillar maybe in line of sight. Minpoike's got his back. Nixie's stabilized.
Yeah, Alec had a beautiful counter spell there onto the Thalcules on Walrix, so that's the only thing that kept Nixie alive in that setup. Leg sweep onto Looney. Minpoike not really in a position to get any more crowd control. Nixie getting stunned up. Fear on him. Minpoike. Nixie needs to try to get away, but he has no defensives left out of line of sight. And finally, the Life Cocoon will come in from Minpoike, but that's such a long cooldown. Minpoike falling behind here in this situation. Going to be using that human racial to get out of that stun to try to keep his team alive in this situation. But XRB to the moon is finding tons of counter pressure every time Minpoike pushes in for that incapacitate.
Tempo Storm needs triple crowd control. Alec needs to polymorph the off target when Minpoike incaps the healer, so that way it's a 3-on-1 for whoever they're hitting, whether that be Walrix or Zeepai. So right now, polymorphing Walrix, incapacitating Looney, and then stunning Zeepai at the same time. If they leave an opening, look, Minpoike gets feared on his way of the Crane. Looney can spam heal. Tempo Storm can leave no openings during this burst setup. And honestly, their setups are kind of lazy if they're not looking for that. I don't think they should be padding the damage on multiple targets. Just focus one down and go for crowd control, because they're leaving Zeepai and Walrix too open. The pressure is too much in their favor. I mean, they're winning on mana, but at any point, I feel like Looney could just look for a drink, and he should be considering it now moving into dampening.
Yeah, Alex trying to line us up, but he gets stunned up there by the Fell Lord from Walrix. Zeepai trying to cast out those lava bursts. Another follow-up stun. Walrix is so good with these stun lock chains. There's the full blind onto Looney.
But look, they left Walrix open.
But that's actually a huge overlap from XRB. Both Looney and Zeepai trinketed, as well as use the Astral Shift from Zeepai. Nixie getting lower. Minpoike into the fear. Nixie's going to actually line of sight in this situation, I believe. Minpoike's going to have to play catch up, but he has the way of the Crane available to top off his team. Looney gets locked out. Zeepai still taking huge pressure, and really XRB doesn't have any defensives left besides that Iron Bark. That overlap could cost XRB the game if Temple Storm can get one more clean setup.
Yeah, we see an incapacitate on Looney into a leg sweep. Zeepai is kiting away. They coordinate the stun. He's out of line of sight of Walrix. Walrix can't help Zeepai. Minpoike's ripping in as well. Looney's trying to pick him back up. A Swiftman connects. Iron Bark deflects the attack, but Iron Bark will now not be available for Vendetta very shortly in about 35 seconds, so Zeepai needs to play it very careful. He's trying to avoid the fight. He just retreats back. I mean, you can see Tempo Storm. They know they've got a win condition. They just got the Iron Bark. They forced Looney's hands based on the positioning. If they can get a clean setup in the next 26 seconds, they could easily kill Zeepai.
Yeah, all they need is a kidney shot on Zeepai, incapacitate leg sweep on the Looney, Kleptomania, and that is it. Nixie's going to have lots of damage with that Kingsbane and that Vendetta. We're at 10% dampening as well. You can tell Zeepai knows he's in trouble. He's just camping the gate, wants to be able to kite away at any point. As soon as he gets out of that stun, Hex over on him, and Poike has the way of the crane up. Big damage going out onto Zeepai right now, but Tempo Storm deciding not to pull the trigger just yet. Zeepai now kiting over to Looney. Looney always making space. Look at Looney. Always kiting away from his DPS, wants to be nowhere near that rogue mage.
But Minpoike used Way of the Crane outside of the setup, so Tempo Storm's damage is going to be very low right now, and Zeepai might be able to just easily run away from it as a result. And anytime Minpoike is using that Way of the Crane, he's not getting covered by his team. He gets hexed on it instantly, and then he gets feared out of it. His team needs to help him out, or they need to coordinate together to make sure his Way of the Crane doesn't get crowd controlled. They need that extra burst to push such a tanky composition over the edge, and maybe that's just a lack of experience. I mean, I don't imagine they play the Mistweaver RMP very much on the ladder. It's more of like a counter pick, but they have to coordinate together and help Minpoike stay on target with Way of the Crane. Here comes the setup. Looney trinkets out immediately, realizing the situation, but Minpoike played it smart. He's not using Way of the Crane just yet. He's going to roll in, wait for crowd control. He's waiting for Nixie to leave CC. He paralyzes Walrix instead to stop some fears. But I'd really like to see more polymorphs during the kidney shots, because every time they leave one player open, he completely dismantles their setup.
Yeah, look at Looney just running away from Minpoike, making it so obnoxious for Minpoike to actually get out that leg, so he just gets caught in these fears and these hexes over and over. Looney basically baiting Minpoike into all these CC chains, and it allows his team to get this pressure. That was Alex Ice Block. Huge defense. Alec kills. 20% dampening is now in. Alec is very unlikely to get another Ice Block in this game. Now Nixie's in trouble. Cloak of Shadows has been used. Now there's huge openings for XRB, or 20% dampening. Alec has no defensive. Nixie doesn't really have too many defensives either. Alec trying to cut away, trying to get topped off as they make another desperation swap over on the Looney. Iron Bark's going to be used out, but it doesn't look like they have enough follow-up damage into the leg. So big arcane missiles coming in. Arcane Blast, Arcane Barrage as well. Looney barely survives that as he gets into bear form and displaces away behind the pillar.
Yeah, Zeepai deflects with an attempted hex, but they get the fear on Nixie. Looney is still having a hard time topping himself off. He should be able to. He's so far away. Alec is now in retreat. No Ice Block available, and Tempo Storm have to play on their tippy toes here as Alec's getting bursted. Minpoike got wind sheared. He's trying to get the enveloping mist, boost his healing. It looks like Alec will be able to sustain. Way of the Crane gets popped instantly. I like this from Minpoike. He's attacking the pets. That way his attacks heal, but Nixie's just dying through it. Dampening's pretty high, and now Zeepai's trying to get a Stormkeeper off. He's trying to burst through. Walrix trying to spam fear them off of the pillar. I'd like to see maybe triangle position from Zeepai and Walrix. I guess they're afraid to line of sight each other. Here comes the setup. Incapacitate, leg sweep. A nice kidney shot onto Walrix. Zeepai needs to be the one to save him. Walrix trinkets and portals away. Good reaction, and that's immediately going to deflect that attack. Tempo Storm, their damage is going to be lacking for another 20 seconds, which means that XRB to the moon need to get some work done now.
Yeah, Minpoike is really struggling on healing at this point of the game. Way of the Crane's not going to be that effective as dampening gets higher and higher. Every time he pushes in, he's getting crowd controlled. So that one Rising Sun kick and triple Blackout kick isn't enough to just top off his team. Walrix taking a big amount of damage once again as Minpoike charges in. Walrix trying to stay alive. Looney's not using the Iron Bark, but that's how XRB plays. They always are so greedy with their defensive. Looney's going to be trinketing out. So now Looney has no trinket, no Iron Bark. There's another opportunity for Tempo Storm. And Poike, if he gets that leg sweep with the Incapacitate, that's an opportunity for them to take down Walrix. Walrix still has the Unending Resolve, not overlapping that, trying to kite away, but Alex chasing in with the Arcane Missiles. Walrix trying to line of sight the best he can. Alex relentless, though, and this assault. Going to be line of sighting that fear. Nixie needs to be able to connect to his target as well. Get the Rupture, get the Garrote up again. There's the kidney shot. That might be enough with the Mark of Alanif. Poike spamming out the cast also, but Walrus should be fine. Looney gets topped off there.
He doesn't trade on any resolve for that Vendetta. His pet even went down. That was really greedy by Walrix. He's going to get away with it. Now maybe he can push forward and be aggressive. These hexes on Minpoike are just so devastating. He actually had to trinket that one. Now he could get control on his way to the crane and not be able to trinket, but it might not matter. The damage is just so high, and Walrix isn't responding. He's not using the unending resolve. He's at 10%. How? Is Looney just in his ear saying, I got you? Because I'm literally screaming inside my head. There it is! He is. Unending resolve and Iron Bark are both overlap now to try and desperately stay alive through the pressure, but they've done it. Walrix is stabilizing. They need an immediate counter pressure. Alec needs to get bursted down. Will they be able to find it? That Hex trinket from Minpoike, they can punish that. They need to CC Minpoike. There's the Hex. They need to set up some damage onto Alec. Do they have the stuns? Alec's right on top of Walrix. He can easily punish him, but the Felguard, his pet just keeps dying. Nice strategy adaptation from Tempo Storm. Now Walrix caught into a stun. He trinkets out, but dampening is so high that the damage from Nixie is almost becoming unhealable.
Yeah, Walrix finally gets that pedo. Alex still chasing him down. Nice double leg sweep coming in from Minpoike. All alone in this situation. Nixie trying to connect that kidney shot as he finally almost gets to his target, but he gets caught into the axe stun.
Oh no!
The stun of the Spell Lord. Nixie almost going down. The Cloak of Shadow is going to be used, as well as that life cocoon. And Poike doing everything he can to keep Nixie alive. Walrix with the beautiful counter pressure in that situation.
Okay, so Vendetta available. Way of the Crane up in 20. Arcane power is up. Alec, Minpoike, and Nixie can do so much damage, but they need to live for a couple more seconds. Ice Block comes up in 5. Minpoike tops off Alec. Now Nixie gets swapped to. Nixie needs to get back to the pillar. I don't think he can stay out in the open much longer. Minpoike is trying to use Revival to boost his health. Nixie goes for the kidney shot. Nixie's looking for the solo kill. Looney deflects, but now Iron Bark won't be available for Arcane Power and Way of the Crane, and that could just be a devastating. They get Portal out of the way. As soon as Way of the Crane gets popped, Minpoike is going to do a ton of damage. This could easily be Walrix's life. Dampening is so high, Way of the Crane gets feared instantly. Nice reaction time from Walrix. He needs to keep cutting away. Nixie now caught in a stun. Alec ice blocks. That deflection reaction time was perfect. Another fear onto the Way of the Crane. That could have been the end of the game, but Walrix keeps his head level, and now they could potentially get a kill.
Yeah, but dampening is so high in this situation. This Rogue Mage is going to be tearing into this Warlock. Zeepy needs to create some counter pressure on the Nixie. Full blind on the Zeepy. Nixie trying to keep himself alive, but ultimately gets taken down. 46. Kleptomania, they can take down either Walrix or Zeepy.
XRB to the moon is just one game away from moving forward in this lower portion of the bracket and sending Tempo Storm not only home from this tournament, but take them out of contention inside of the EU to go to the LAN. Will XRB be able to kick off the day with a hot 3-0?
Here we go. Runes of Lordaeron, a fitting place for a final resting place as Tempo Storm, their tournament lives are on the line. They need a decent finish in this tournament. If they lose here, they're out. They have to reverse sweep this if they want to stay in it.
Yeah, and it looks like Walrix is the target of choice with the incapacity over on the Looney, but Minpoike is hexed up. Now Nixie's going to be swapping over on the Looney. Big pressure coming in from Tempo Storm fairly early on with the DR leg sweep coming in from Minpoike as well, but Looney's just going to be sitting all these stuns. Potentially a little greedy. He knows, though, how much damage Rogue Mage has. There's the full blind, and now Tempo Storm's going to be swapping target once again. I like what Tempo Storm is doing. They are all over the place, keeping XRB guessing.
Yeah, Zeepy is the target for now, but Alec needs to be careful. His tournament life is on the line. He barely gets out of line of sight. He's still dangerously low. Minpoike is trying to pick him back up. Zeepy under fire, though, by Nixie. He's down 10%, but they play it greedy, and greedy is good in this situation. They managed to bait Minpoike's hand to use the life cocoon, even with Alec behind the pillar. Now that safety net is going to be gone.
Yeah, that I feel like that was pulled a little bit early by Minpoike. That triggered, but we'll have to see how that plays out. Minpoike getting feared up in this situation as well. Alex having to line of sight once again. All those demons from Walrix doing huge work in this game, keeping that pressure onto Alec. Now Minpoike is going to be charging in. Pistol stun over on the Zeepy. He still has the trinket, though. He still has the astral shift. There's the leg sweep over on the Looney. Who is XRB targeting down? Looks like Zeepy is going to be taking a whole bunch of bursts as the Mark of Alanith gets cast out by Alec. But Looney, no follow-up CC. He's going to be able to easily top off Zeepy at the expense of not a single defensive cooldown.
All right, Walrix caught into a stun, but Zeepy, Stormkeeper channel, tons of bursts potentially here. Zeepy's moving forward, but not able to connect it just yet as Alec is avoiding all of it. Nixie's going to be the swap target for XRB. He's getting bursted down with the Earthshock stun. Hannah Gul'dan connects. He just trades out Cloak of Shadows. You can tell that Tempo Storm are scared. Their tournament lives on the line. They just trade out everything. And now they're trying to go for a desperation swap onto Looney. Walrix is spamming Fear. Zeepy lines up some healing surges, and with the Fear and healing surges, Looney was able to survive the stuns, get the Bear Farm Frenzy regen. He's positioning near the gateway if he needs to get an escape. Great positioning from Looney. Alec knows the kill is gone. He's going to pull back, channel some missiles at Walrix. He seems to be just fine for now with no crowd control on Looney. What Tempo Storm need to be aware of is Minpoike can't get crowd control on Way of the Crane. They have to support him better and allow him to get the damage off and top his team at the same time with it. Right now, this is nice. He's getting Fear DR before the Way of the Crane, so now they need to stop Hex. He gets the full Hex, and Minpoike has to trinket it. They're just going to go all in, but the Thunderstorm Gateway prevents Nixie from reconnecting, and XRB look untouchable.
Yeah, Looney just sat down and drank the full in the meantime. Now a leg sweep over on a Looney once again. A lot of damage coming in over on a Looney. He doesn't have the box, and he gets smoked! What was that? First, Tempo Storm coming back in this game. Looney playing exceptionally greedy, as always, and finally, someone can punish him for that. Tempo Storm with the unexpected damage.
Did you see the barrage?
No,
in
I
the
missed
lead
it.
in?
I literally looked down at my notes because I was like, okay, so if Tempo Storm loses this, I was trying to figure out where everyone after that opener was insanity. First of all, you see just Tempo Storm. It seems like they're playing it perfectly, and you even noted it in your cast. They're jumping all over the place. They're putting everybody on guard. It seemed like they got everybody down below 10%, and then you just see XRB flirting with the devil there, hanging out at 10%, not popping a single defensive cooldown. All they get is skin and frenzied regen out of Looney just completely unwavering. And then all of a sudden, XRB's able to pull cooldown after cooldown. But still, what happened, Zico, that they were able to flip that on its head and Tempo Storm was able to put their first kill up on the board?
Well, basically what XRB does is, and this is why they're such a hard opponent to beat, is that they are always playing basically off script. And what I mean with that is that usually they don't trinket blind to have their trinket line up with the next blind. They don't trinket every swap where someone drops super low. They really communicate well who is stopping what. And the main difference in this setup right here is the polymorph onto Warwick's, and then Zipa is standing in the room free healing his entire mana bar. He gets out 4 or 5 healing waves right there, healing surges right there, and Looney's still
To avoid both Minpoike and Nixie getting him caught up in caster form.
From incredibly quick games to the longest games possible, this series has everything. Tempo Storm has already shown that you can't count out the reigning BlizzCon champion yet, but XRB to the moon is going to try to bury them in the sand and run away with this series.
Just immediately stopping the gateway from Walrix, going for a blind play. They're trying to limit Walrix's mobility. He's repositioning on the opposite side of his portal. Then as soon as Looney, they didn't stop the sap. Now Walrix is able to sneak a gateway in though. Great job. Now he's going to have that escape. He's going to drop an Infernal, try and get some counter pressure. Hex on Nixie. Looks like they're swapping to Looney though. He needs to be careful. He barkskins. Way of the Crane gets feared away. This seems like a decent trade so far with Bear Form now for the follow-up stun. Great peels there. Tempo Storm gets shut down with a fair trade with Barkskin.
Yeah, I mean, that's completely fine. Alec didn't commit his arcane power. Now a little bit of damage over on the Walrix. That's what they needed. Tempo Storm needed to get that Barkskin. That's all they really needed to commit to get. Now Walrix taking some pressure, incapacitate over on the Z-Bite. You can see Z-Bite is trying to harass Minpoike as much as possible. Nice port from Minpoike. Finally getting out of the middle of the map to avoid some of that elemental shaman damage. Reconvening with the rest of his team so he can get those heals out. Pistol stun over onto Z-Bite. Nixie putting out some pressure with the arcane missiles from Alec. Alec's getting interrupted. That's good. It gets the interrupt out of the way from Walrix, so baiting out those interrupts on these swaps that don't really matter too much is important. That way, Walrix isn't going to have the interrupt available when they make that hard swap on the Looney.
All right, Minpoike is ready to go for Way of the Crane. He's on full crowd control DR, but Nixie needs to be careful with Fell Lord drop down. He's getting bursted. Minpoike activates Way of the Crane, but it's not enough. Gets feared away on it again. Cloak of Shadows has to be traded out. Here comes an attempt from Tempo Storm to set up. Good crowd control. Tons of damage. Walrix portals away, but Looney's very far away from him. He's trying to get back to target. Minpoike's on top of him, trying to line of sight fear. Drain life. Smart move there from Walrix, sustaining himself while Looney makes it across the map. They know Looney's trying to get to Walrix, so they switch targets to Z-Pie. Now Looney has to come back and heal Z-Pie. Walrix and Z-Pie are both low. Looney doing a good job to recover now. With this whole team topping off with this artifact activated. Looney repositions with the gateway. He wants to be very far away from his team, so that way it's obvious when Minpoike moves in for crowd control, and there's more time for Z-Pie and Walrix to react.
Yeah, look at the triangle formation coming in from Z-Pie and Walrix, sort of pincering Nixie, Alec, and Minpoike in this situation. Tempo Storm's had enough, trying to get some damage now over onto Z-Pie, but Alex, these demons coming in from Walrix is keeping him so low in the situation. Gouge over onto Z-Pie, Minpoike charges in, he's trying to get that crowd control. Alex still not topped off though, throwing the polymorphs over onto Z-Pie, stun over onto Walrix, leg sweep onto Looney. Nice CC from Tempo Storm. Alex able to get out those barrages as well, commits the presence of mind, putting out big pressure onto Walrix, but Walrix near his gateway, spamming out that fear. Looney should be in line of sight of him to get those heals out, still has the Iron Bark, but XRB, it's so hard to get those defensive cooldowns from them.
Yeah, Way of the Crane and Tricks of the Trade are the ways that Tempo Storm can kind of bait cooldowns out. That was a Tricks of the Trade on Alec, and that's why Walrix dipped so low, and they almost got the unending resolve for it, but Walrix saw that there was no commitment otherwise with Arcane Power or Plunder, so he held on to it. It was a greedy play. It's a risky play, especially when you add Way of the Crane, because Way of the Crane Tricks, that can be enough damage on its own that it's substantial, and it could basically be a cooldown. We see a swap. Nixie jumps over. No, Looney saw it coming. He got into bear form. He's ready, and now Nixie's stranded in the middle of the map, trying to make his way back to a target. Z-Pie looking for Hex. Nixie now caught into a stun. Vortex, Fell Lord, Wombo combo. Nixie saw that coming. He Cloak of Shadows and gets out of it as soon as possible.
Yeah, Looney doing an excellent excellent job. He set the full blind as well as the full sap, gets into bear form for that stun, so he's bought his team a lot of time to get aggressive. Templestorm's not going to be able to have a huge offensive go in a little while, but now Minpoike charges in, going for potentially the leg sweep onto Looney as well. Warwick just gates away, fears up Minpoike. Now damage over onto Looney. Alec gets sheared into a fear. Nice peels coming in from XRB. Looney should be fine to be able to get into bear form. Frenzied regen is going to connect, and that's all he needs. Although sometimes it seems very scary for Looney if he can just get into that bear form at 10-15% HP. That frenzied rejuvenation, sorry, I can't even talk, will be able to keep him alive.
All right, Nixie rooted in the middle of the map. Zeepai trying to take control of him while Mark of Alanith is on Walrix. Nixie needs to be careful. No Trinket, no Cloak of Shadows. Tournament life is on the line. Those are the cooldowns that he needs to survive some big bursts from Walrix. And Walrix is setting it up. He's getting lots of Shadow Bolts. Hand to Gul'dan. He's empowering all the imps. He's getting ready for a huge Thalcules. They need to be ready for another Hand to Gul'dan. Nixie's on the run, but it might be too late. Zeepai jumps in. Earthshock connects. Will he be able to stay alive? It looks like he will. And Poike pops away of the crane, but that was more of a defensive way of the crane. Now he's feared away. Nixie is still low. If Walrix can set up, no, he gets stunned away. Zeepai's trying to go for an Ice Fury kill. Riposte denying the Fell Pet's damage as Nixie retreats away. He's not going to throw the game. It's like, okay, Cloak of Shadows is up in 5 seconds. I think I can chill out for 5 seconds and wait for that. Tempo Storm needs to be playing so careful here.
He actually committed his Vanish there to get away as well. Looney's still just so far away from Tempo Storm. They can't get these setups. There's the Axe Toss into Fell Lord on him. Minpoike. Big burst over on Minpoike. He does have the Life Cocoon if he needs to use it, but actually activates it here at the last second to keep himself alive. Still just eating all that cleave damage. Now Tempo Storm wants to get aggressive. Minpoike gets the Incapacitate into the leg sweep. Big pressure over onto Zeepai with the Polymorph onto Walrix. This is the cross CC we were talking about. Full blind onto Looney. Looney trinkets out. Zeepai still low. Is he going to use the Iron Bark? He does. So they get the trinket from Looney as well as that Iron Bark. Very nice victory there for Tempo Storm.
Yep. And now they switch to Walrix knowing there's no Iron Bark and Walrix isn't responding. How is he getting away with that much greed? He saw no plunder and no arcane power, so he's like, I don't need to wall. I'll live at 5%. Fully calculated. Nixie swaps to Looney, trying to catch him off guard or bait something more from him, I can imagine. He's not falling for the bait. Alec now trying to mass invis, break up the CC chain as Minpoike's in the middle, trying to get back to Nixie. He rolls over, but gets Earthshock stunned. They're stacked up. Walrix has got Demon's Wrath on the whole team. Everybody's rotting down. Way of the crane up in 5 seconds. They need to make a push, but everyone is dying. Do they have the time? Ice Block got forced out. XRB are on fire. Minpoike pops away of the crane. He's trying to heal off the pet, but he lost a lot of damage that could have been used on Walrix. Will he be able to build it up in time now? He needs the blackout kick stacks. He's not finding it now into the full hex on the way of the crane, and Tempo Storm's pressure is going to fall.
Yeah, but Tempo Storm managed to recover there. Nicely done by Minpoike in that situation. Get that way of the crane healing out. Alex still in a lot of trouble, and they did trade out that Ice Block, so keep in mind, Alex does not have that Ice Block for a very long time. I wanted to commend Alex in this game as well. He's positioning very well to get out those arcane missiles to avoid those interrupts. Tempo Storm has adjusted in this matchup, so Alex actually can get out those missiles, which is so important for them to actually get that consistent pressure going. We're at around 10% dampening right now. As this game goes on, it's going to become more and more difficult for these healers. Looney's actually just sat down for an entire drink as well, so he topped off on mana.
Looney's Cenarian warded himself. I think he's expecting a swap. He's got his Efflorescence down on himself as well. Looney's predicting a swap to him with no trinket, and he's getting set up for it. Let's see if Tempo Storm fall for the bait, because Looney seems to be defending himself quite well. He's really far away, and he's not leaving that opening. He's waiting till his trinket comes up, and then maybe he'll reposition and put the Cenarian ward on somebody else. But that's a really high-level decision there. He gets a bear form off right before the Incapacitate. He completely shuts down any sort of swap opportunity there. And now they're going to go after Zeepai, but Zeepai deflects. He trades out the Astral Shift for all the cooldowns of Alec. He's healing himself up behind the pillar. Looney's now able to sit through the blind comfortably, and now with Looney having trinket, maybe he's going to get a little bit more aggressive, or at least be able to position forward.
Alec!
Nice Vortex. Alec double blinks out. Mass Invises, try to avoid the Hand of Gul'dan. Nixie's going to stun Walrix away as Alec retreats back to the pillar. He's going to be out of line of sight. Dampening is starting to stack. This is still anyone's game.
Yeah, Axe Toss over on him, and Minpoike slowing down those heals once again. Alec can't really be charging out into the middle of the map. Walrus just has his way with him at that point. Nixie's still taking a lot of burst damage. This could be his Cloak of Shadows, but Pistol Stun over on Zeepai. Arcane Missiles come in. Big damage on Zeepai with no CC on the Looney. Looney's in a good spot to just get out those heals. They had an Incapacitate or anything. Could have been much more defensives coming in. Nixie's still in a lot of trouble, though. He's getting pressured down, and Poike having a difficult time getting out those heals. Incapacitate in the leg sweep. He should be able to use the last few seconds of his crane to get some heals out, but no, it runs out. Now Minpoike has to charge in, get that damage on the Walrix. Nicely done by Walrix. He ports behind the pillar, then gates away back to Looney. doing such a good job kiting as always.
All right, Looney's pushing up. He's got Trinket Barkskin. He's ready to support his team for an offensive push. And Zeepai and Walrix are pincering them behind the pillar. Will they be able to push them away and get the assault going in their favor? Walrix has got a lot of demons out. This could be dangerous. They're leaving Walrix open. He's still building up more pressure. This next Valkyries could be deadly. He's trying to fear to bait a counterspell. He's not finding the counterspell. He's still setting up. Tons of demons on the battlefield. Alec is low with no ice block. Poike has way of the crane. They're waiting for it to end. Earthshock connects. Life Cocoon gets traded out. Axe Toss now committed. Maybe wasn't necessary, but they did get Alec's trinket regardless. Now with Fellord coming up, Alec won't have a trinket, and Alec is definitely going to be the target.
Yeah, Alex putting some damage over onto that pet as well. That was his arcane missiles. Walrix managed to avoid a lot of that damage, so kind of a wasted cooldown for Temple Storm. Zeepai now the target of choice. Temple Storm just trying to put out pressure onto anyone they can attack, as they all...
Here it is!
Like they're falling further and further behind. Axe Toss over onto Alex, into the Fellord as well. He tries to blink away, but Knife Vortex coming in, and Poike commits the revival to keep Alec alive in that situation. Nicely done, slowing down Walrix as well, as he was trying to go for that Valkyles.
That was the kill attempt, and the pressure is still high because dampening is reducing the healing of Poike. Poike is struggling to heal him back up. He's trying to go for counter pressure, gets stunned on the Mark of Alanith. He's going for missiles instead, trying to bait the Nether Ward. He's not finding it, so Alex just going to hide behind the pillar. Zeepai is just hucking Lava Burst after Lava Burst at him. Nixie goes for a surprise swap onto Looney. He's trying to find any opportunity that he can for his team. He commits the tricks of the trade, but no one's able to really use it that effectively. Looney gets blinded off the swap. They're going back onto Zeepai. Mark of Alanith, he's trying to fake cast. Alec has to deal with so much pressure in this situation. There's so many interrupts. He's trying his best to get as much damage out. Now feared away. Zeepai's dipping low. Astral Shift gets traded out, but it was before Plunder Armor. Looney needs to be ready and waiting because Zeepai is now an exposed target.
Yes, he absolutely is. And as dampening gets higher and higher, Tempo Storm can just kill through defensive cooldown. So XRB has to be very careful. Gouge onto Walrix. Zeepai gets interrupted into the Pistol Sun, and now Alex just casting out that damage. Zeepai can't afford to overextend. Now Poike charges in, gets the crowd control over on the Looney. He can't really trinket out of that, as he might get caught into that full blind. Zeepai, though, just fine. Going to be counter pressuring. Alex commits the arcane power. Zeepai's going to be leaping away. Looney just spamming out those regrowths, keeping his team alive. 33% dampening, and Temple Storm really struggling to find pressure.
Yeah, they're targeting Walrix now, but he's got defensive cooldowns. Looney has been preparing for this late game. He's been going for multiple drinks, so his mana is still at half. He'd be right now if he wasn't. So great premonition plays from Looney to just predict that this is going to go for a long game and get those drinks off. Excellent map pick, and Tempo Storm have to pull off a miracle to find a kill here, I think, with everyone dipping low. And Poike is struggling. Nixie could just get bursted outright, caught in the Fell Stun. He trinkets right away. Cloak of Shadows on the Fell Lord. He's trying to get out of it as soon as possible. He stuns up Walrix. Poike is low, but Way of the Crane is now available. Poike needs to connect with this Way of the Crane. He pops it. He incaps. He has to get damage up, but he gets Hex on it with no trinket. Poike needed to get this damage out. The Hex luckily breaks early. Poike is trying to dig in. Will the damage be enough? He moves over. He stuns Looney. Walrix just portals away. Will he fall? Nether Ward. Alec is trying to spell steal it off. He grabs it. Walrix is still low. Looney is struggling. Dampening so high. Unending Resolve has to be overlapped. Now Walrix is trying to find counter pressure. They got 20 seconds to push, and at that point, Walrix has almost nothing to survive the next attack.
Yeah, look at Alex and Nixie. They have almost all their offensive cooldowns coming up very soon. If Temple Storm can just get one clean connection onto Walrix, they can absolutely take him down through all of Looney's healing. Looney now caught into the full blind. Nixie, though, getting lower and lower. No Cloak of Shadows available. Big pressure over onto Walrix. He's trying to get away. Ports. Does he have the gateway? He gates away as well. Looney trying to get that healing out onto him. Spam fear on him, and Poike coming in from Walrix with the arcane missiles. So much damage over onto from Alex. Pistol stun over onto Walrix as well. Still big pressure mounting. Alex just spamming out those missiles. Arcane explosion, arcane barrage over and over and over. But Temple Storm needs to be careful to stay out into the open for too long. Zeepai and Walrix to be able to punish it.
Nixie caught into the stun. This could just be in. Life Cocoon from Poike basically does nothing. Dampening is so high. They're trying to stay aggressive. It's all or nothing. Will Walrix die first, or will Nixie? Nixie's trying to run away now, but it might be too little too late. Walrix fears him off the pillar. He's still down below half. Poike has nothing for 5 more seconds. They need to hang in. Earthquakes are coming down. XRB are going for the pincer. Tempo Storm's tournament lives are on the line. If they want to make it to the season finals, are they going to pull it off? Walrix is down to half. He portals away. XRB doing everything to keep this win out of the bag. Alec dips low. He has Ice Block available. He trades it out right away, but now Nixie gets swapped too. Takes it out, and Tempo Storm will be going home.
That Fell Lord coming in from Walrix at the last second.
Beautiful game. I almost wanted to see that game 5, right? I almost wanted to see the game 5 because both of the teams deserved it. right? But ultimately, XRB they have a quick start in this series. What did you think of that last game, Zico?
I thought this was a really back and forth game. It really came down to how people played in that dampening part of the game. And I think that both teams did a phenomenal job. Sorry for Tempo Storm, but they came a little bit short in this one. And I think that it's nice to see that Nixie at least has picked up Outlaw, which was one of my questions for this team particularly, moving into these tournaments, as we saw SkillCup Black pick it up. And in previous tournaments, we saw SkillCup Black really have a big struggle against XRB. But in this tournament, we can see Tempo Storm picking up one of their pages that managed to let them defeat XRB and try to use it as well. Didn't work out quite well, but they can come back stronger next time.
Well, that's the real thing. The come back stronger next time, because obviously we have multiple seasons, so we will see Tempo Storm again. And when I look at this team, I almost feel like they have been improving. I feel like not only they got a slow start in this series, right? But I feel like the biggest story for this team is maybe getting a slow start over the course of the year. I want to look at the replays right now, and then we'll talk about these teams in a little bit of a broader sense. But ultimately, let's see how XRB were able to get this series victory over Tempo Storm.
All right, so we all know that XRB, they kind of just outlast, and then when dampening is high enough, they go in for the kill. Now, when you watch Lock Shaman, Resto Druid, LA Shaman, Resto Druid play into Rogue Mage teams, usually the LA Shaman dies. So I wanted to kind of highlight why they don't die and why they actually survive all the way to dampening and how they get these wins, because it's, for the most part, at the back of their defensive plays. And right here, we have a classic Rogue Mage setup for Tempo Storm. You can see here, Looney has been incapacitated, which is going to be followed up by the leg sweep. You can see here, Zipai is in that pistol stun right now, and you can see Warwick's was a previous target, so he's in a very defensive position out of the fray right now. So this is how XRB deflects it. First of all, right now, we can highlight Looney's Iron Bark is used. So what Looney does is every single time Mpoike is charging across using his rolls to get to Looney, he constantly keeps a max range distance. And while he walks into the range of the incapacitate, he drops off the Iron Bark onto Zipai or Warwick's, whoever is going to be the target. We even saw him use it on himself one time in this game. And these plays are very, very crucial, of course, because otherwise Zipai is going to be in a world of trouble. As you can see, the mark of Alunith has been used onto Zipai. You can see the icon on his feet right there. You can see Alec and Nixie are both on top of him doing maximum amount of damage. You can see here that the Plunder Armor and the Arcane Power has been committed. Now, the big reason for Looney to use that cooldown is because he has to respect the fact that Arcane Power is available and that Zipai doesn't have the Astral Shift. So constantly, Looney and Zipai are rotating through their cooldowns, the Astral Shift and that Iron Bark, and they never want to overlap those if they're going on Zipai. So the first thing that happens is Alec gets immediately spell-locked by Warwick. Warwick is spamming out these spheres onto Nixie, and Mpoike gets the follow-up crowd control, but as soon as he connects, he gets immediately hexed. And this is what they do so well at XRB. They always have these setups where both Warwick and Zipai are casting, and then Alec has to pick his poison. Do I want to counterspell the Hex, or do I want to counterspell the Fear? And also Alec has to somehow do damage while Warwick is constantly trying to counterspell him. So these are the main things that let them survive. Just spam casting, and you have to pick one to interrupt, and then the other one is going to peel. Combine that with the fact that Looney is so good at reading these situations, and that's it. And the map obviously makes a big difference here. Now here we have the kill setup. You can see again, it starts out with a Hex onto Mpoike. Mpoike has no trinket, and he's on his crane. So this is another crucial thing that happens. You can see here, it's a setup happening for Tempo Storm onto Looney. They have incapacitated him. They want to be following that up with a pistol stun or maybe a leg sweep, but immediately the leg sweep gets taken out of the equation by Zipai immediately going for that preemptive Hex. You can see Warwick's right now hasn't used his trinket, so he didn't trinket portal here. He actually just has a very defensive positioning. He is on top of his port and his gate, so that allows Warwick to gate all the way over here, and then he can port back right here, and that lets Warwick really do these kiting setups kind of that we've seen every single time Looney gets caught up in the crowd control. So they have the escape route planned out for Warwicks, and they have the way to deny the crowd control forming Poike in place. Now Zipa as well is moving with Warwicks on this side of the map, and you can see that Nixie is trying to catch him, and Alec is all the way over here trying to make something happen. Now we can go ahead and roll the clip and see what happens. We can see Nixie's gonna cloak, hook, immediately gets stunned on that, and then he gets fell guarded. Warwick's using that little ledge there on the pillar to stack up the rogue and the mage, and then the Takios finally does go off, and there's nothing.
Predicted this, but it has been XRB to the moon, who has been on a tear, dominating the region in points. They are still in the lower portion of the bracket. That means they have an extra matchup if they want to go to the grand final, since they have already lost inside of this tournament. And as we can see, it is going to be the next matchup of the day, Skill Cap Black versus 85%, which is going to determine everything. It is in the upper portion of the bracket, so we'll find out who is going to play XRB to the moon, and we're going to find out who goes straight to the grand final, ladies and gentlemen.